the dulcet tones of I forget the what's it called, the ensemble choir with the Votox there from one of our contributors. That introduces Sonic's Talk number 377. I was trying to think of some sort of number in my... I had a thought that there was a Revox B377, but it was a B77, so it didn't quite work. So close, but no cigar. Anyway, welcome to everybody. If you've not seen us before, we're streaming live on YouTube. If you haven't seen us on YouTube before, subscribe, and then you will get information about the show coming along into your inbox, and you won't have to just check back every day. So please do subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And also want to say thank you to Isotope, who of course sponsor the show. We have a winner of RX4 and also a new competition to set. So please stay tuned and you will enjoy that possibility as well. So let's go to some guests. We'll start with Mr. Dave Robinson, editor of ProSoundNewsEurope.com. Looking like he's working in telesales today. Thank you very much. How is that going? They got you working hard. Any spare moment?
Sorry, caller. Can I just have you thought about your PPI claim?
You have no idea how many PPI insurance claims I get. This is probably a very UK-centric joke. In fact, for PPI, it's payment protection insurance that was missold on a national level, and the government fined everybody. So now there are all these agencies trying to ring you up, mobile phones, and it's like cold calling. And in fact, the other day, this is a totally unrelated story. The other day, I said, yes, I would like you to call me back because they ring you up, but it's a machine. So I said yes, and then I spoke to the guy and said, look, I thought I'd just say yes so I could talk to a human being and say, can you just bloody well stop ringing me because I've had enough? And he said, yeah, I totally understand. And he said, to be honest, mate, I work in the industry and I still get 5 or 6 calls a day myself. I haven't figured out a way to stop them either.
No one's safe.
Yeah, anyway, Dave Robinson, how is life up there in the big city, working on international publications, going to all the parties?
Well, we actually had our own awards night last week, which was very exciting. Can you see my synthesizer there?
No, you're going the wrong way. There you go.
There we go. It's just the Coog.
The Coog.
Yeah, we had our own awards event at the Ministry of Sound last week.
Oh, what did we win?
Well, maybe next year.
Nothing.
Maybe next year. But we recognise the various sectors, broadcast and installed sound and recorded sound and live sound. But this year we had a panel of producers. We did like a Q&A, like a Parkinson thing. I don't know what the equivalent would be in the States, but
Robinson.
Actually it was Phil Ward who's known to some people. Yeah, Phil Ward hosted it, and we had Andre Jacquemin, who's the Monty Python producer, came up and talked about his experiences working with Python, and David Hasselhoff and all kinds of stuff. And then Ben Hillier, who of course worked with worked on the last couple of Depeche Mode albums. Mm-hmm. And then Stephen Street, who worked on the first Smiths album 30 years ago this year,
and many others of note as well.
And Blur and all kinds of stuff. So they all kind of showed their shared their thoughts of the industry. And then I hosted a panel of live sound engineers, including John Burton, who's front of house live sound for The Prodigy.
Wow,
and,
that's a challenging job, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And a guy called Chicky Reeves, who was front of house for Prince earlier this year. And he was shadowing the original front of house guy, and then halfway through the tour, when they got to Leeds, Prince sacked the original guy. So Chicky had to step into the breach, and then immediately was assigned somebody to shadow him just in case he got sacked.
Wow! So that tells you a lot about the way that works.
Yeah, he said it was an honour to be doing front of house for Prince, but he would never do it again.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. The pressure. Well, anyway, Dave.
Absolutely.
I hope you made it home all right, because a big night like that could result in all sorts of shenanigans till the early hours. But you're looking well, so thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you it's been a while since I've been here, so it's nice to be back.
It certainly has. But yes, nice to have you back too. And there we have Mark Tinley, who's their sound artist and creative thinker, who's there in sunny Glastonbury. Nice to have you back, Mark. I'm sorry that because we had you were scheduled to come on last week or the week before, and it didn't work out, and I didn't see that you were there, kind of rapping on the window. You had a major Skype crash, but it's nice to see you. You well?
Skype, yeah. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, Skype. It was one of those, like 5 minutes before the show, click on Skype icon, opens it up, and it says it was updating me or something. And like 35 minutes later, I was ready, and you were already half an hour into the show.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think it was maybe it was the Tara Bush episode, but
it was, yeah.
Actually, I think it was last week we had Andy Shillito on, who does front house live sound front of house, and that was a very interesting thing, sort of related to what you were talking about, Dave. So yeah. Gaz Williams, who's there in Bristol, co-host of Sonic Touch and Cubase Impresario. You may have seen that we've just posted the first of a series of videos on Cubase 7.5, which Gaz shows you how to use tempo detection to free yourself from the tyranny of the grid.
Yeah, I think that's a essential viewing. I think if people haven't seen that,
it's very interesting.
Yeah, you're about to say that.
Yeah.
But
no, it is though. It is.
It's
Most
very
of the
good.
stuff we do is rubbish, but that's essential viewing.
Yeah, don't watch that. Watch this. Don't watch this. Watch that. That's what I meant to say, but it came out wrong as usual. Anyway, guys, glad to have you aboard. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get straight in then. Now, let me see. First topics. I'm just going to switch on the player on the front page, so you get a little bit of a bump there. So, yeah, this one's amazing. I think I pressed this button, if I remember. Yes, there we go.
Score Music Interactive proudly presents Xhail, an interactive production music generator, and what the industry are calling the future for production music publishing.
Interesting. This is follows on from our artificial intelligence discussion from last week.
Xhail's interface. Here we see a brief window, and by typing in a word relevant to our project, we can immediately generate a unique and new piece of music.
I can't see what that says, but presumably it's something really pertinent.
Never existed
It says
before.
Happy. Thank you.
Generating for the very first time in Xhail. And you can see there's many stems involved. These are instrument performances.
This is a very interesting thing. What this does is basically create music on the fly from input from other musicians, whether it be instrumental, to certain briefs, and then creates a sort of specifically new composition using the bits that you send in, and then that you specify with keywords or whatever, tempo, the mood, that kind of stuff.
There. Let's suppose we need music for a crime series.
So here we go. But also you can say, I don't like the guitar, and it'll swap out the guitar, generate a new piece or what have you. But what's really interesting about this is you can also put hit points in, and I think later on in the video, if I could just fast forward it, we'll start to see. Here we go.
Fast playing bell. I want to replace that with a slower.
This is a bit more detail.
Just regenerated the bell track, and the bells are playing at a slower pace, and I prefer that.
This is where it gets very interesting. So now
we can sculpt out the key.
You can actually sort of thin out various parts of the track. Now, if I fast forward it a bit, there's also the ability to add these kind of hit points.
And all sorts of stuff
so they want stuff to happen there, not just the music bed.
Section. This is very cool. So I've just dropped in a brass stinger, and I've dropped it in exactly where the cannon comes out of the wizard's chest in the films.
And so on and so forth.
It is unique to this project.
So those are the musical things that have happened. And so on and so forth. And we were kind of, I sent this out as a link to the participants of last week's panel. Rich Hilton was kind of, I don't really want stuff to do things like that for me. But I think even he was very impressed with the sort of musicality and the side of it. And I started to read up a little bit about it. What's very interesting about this is the idea is it's an organisational umbrella for library music. So composers who join the Xhail, or it's actually they're called Score Music Interactive organisation, will submit pieces of audio, performances, compositions to specific briefs, those keywords, into a template that are then kind of brought together in that interface and used to create a unique piece of music, which then has its own fingerprint. And once it's created, it can no longer be relicensed. Then the person who's creating the music goes, yeah, I'll have that for my library track. They pay for it. The musicians get 50% of the sync and also the publishing. And it just seems like, wow, that is... I mean, I didn't know that aspect of it, but it's a very neat idea. I know. We'll start with you, Dave, because we haven't heard from you for so long. I want you to make up for time. It's a very interesting notion. I mean, we know quite a lot of people, probably mutually, who do a lot of library music. I guess this could be just another outlet, but it's very smart technology on the face of it. Obviously, it's impossible to know without trying it.
Yeah, I guess from when I looked at the video, and the first thing he types in is that happy, and that first track is supposed to describe happy. I think that's a particularly bad example because when he types in crime, and you get something that does sound like it could be a Ian Rankin soundtrack or sort of standard BBC drama kind of thing, and it is a nice idea. I mean, there have been the composition programs like this before, but as long as everything doesn't sound like that generic. I mean, well, how can I put it? That sounded very sort of Disney, didn't it?
Yes.
That music sounded, the wizard thing sounded very Disney, and then it's going to sound generic in a way, because I guess there's only so many. The algorithms, the input it's using, it can only use certain facets of that. It will be interesting to see if this does catch on and it does work, but in whether there is, if it does work as well as it sounds, that there is a backlash against it from composers, but also whether the music it produces just becomes too kind of, it's that again, it's that sort of generic Xhail thing.
Well,
in the same way as Band in the Box used to do that auto accompaniment software, which ultimately is relying on a certain number of styles. But it did sound very exciting. Though if I was I'd want to make sure that it's not putting anybody out of a job. And I didn't, you described the publishing and the fact that people can contribute to it. As long as everything there is in place, then that's fine. Because I know that people struggle enough, and certainly a very good friend of ours who does do this kind of stuff. It's unless you're a major composer, you ain't going to be making huge amounts of money out of this. So if you're making that marketplace even more difficult for composers, then that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's maybe right. No, Gaz, what do you think? I mean, it's very impressive. It's very impressive technology. I'm thinking this is going to be happening for more. You're kind of not happy.
Death to it.
Right.
Death to it. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's a terrible thing. It is going to sound the same. They say, it's all fingerprinted or whatever, because one tune's going to go bloop, 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 bloop. And then your other version's going to go bloop, 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 bloop. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's true. It may be, yeah.
And I just kind of, I mean, yes, it's clever. Yes, it sounded very slick, very professional. But, ultimately, I think it's a dreadful thing. And, yeah, the Musicians Union and other organisations should come down hard on it, really, because, it is going to put musicians out of work. And
it's just the sort of thing Gaz, I thought it's just the sort of thing that Musicians Union would be keeping a very close eye on.
You think so?
Because they get quite militant. I mean, with all due respect, they do fight to make sure that they're the musician, as we know, the cases where
the way they've stuck up
musicals in the West End have done musicians out of paying jobs, playing for orchestras, that kind of stuff. So if anybody is going to be hurt by this, I guess you'll hear about it, which is good.
But surely, Gaz, I mean, don't you think that people who are going to be using library music are essentially browsing the libraries, and the composers who compose that are very often composing generic stuff because that's what's requested. They do happy, up tempo, blah 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 blah. It's got the same process. What's different?
Well, for a start, something that makes me really angry is the way that sort of TV music or film music has just become so generic over the years. Recently, we were working out some Jerry Anderson theme tunes, learning how to play them and just marveling at the just wonderful composition and just, as Jerry Anderson, that's like kind of Stingray, Captain Scarlet. Joe 90 actually was the theme tune that we were working on. Fantastic. And I was just marveling at just how much creativity in the writing and how fantastic it was, and like virtually everything you see these days, everything so generic. And I just see that this is just kind of jumping into that genericism, and it's just going to make even more boring, rubbish, bland music. Boo! Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's fair. But Mark, I feel that it's your time for you to contribute. I mean, I'm still on the fence on this. I'm not sure how I would view it, because I think that maybe what it will do is actually create. There might be more work for musicians who are perhaps not full composers but are happy to contribute parts to it rather than compose, library music, because you have to have quite a big body of work in a library to start making money.
As a contrarian, I feel that I should go against everything that Dave and Gaz have just said.
Right. Wow.
And that my entire personality is to do that. But unfortunately, I can see a fatal flaw in it that nobody's really thought of. So I think I'm probably on more on their side than not, actually. And what I notice about that is, having composed music for film directors or producers before, film directors or producers have very set ideas about the way they want something to sound. And I'm not convinced that film director or producer looking over my shoulder going like, no, I want that one, I think we'll be there all day. I think rather than it saving time and me just if I type in, I mean, everybody's idea of happy or sad or dark or detective or whatever is all completely different, isn't it? I mean, unless we can really homogenize things, which hopefully we won't. And I agree with Gaz. I think there needs to be more expressivity in art and music. But everyone has like this different. Whenever I've worked with anyone doing music, you do what you think is going to be the right thing for that person, and you think you know what they're going to want to hear, and inevitably it goes through several iterations before they're happy, and then they don't really get what they wanted to hear at the end. They still get some interpretation or whatever, and then I just don't think it's going to deliver to meet the producer and the director's expectations. That's unless somebody's just boshing something out really quick.
Well, unless sorry, go Dave.
I was going to say, I mean, they showed the file and they showed the instruments. Is there anything about exporting it? Can it be exported as a Pro Tools file or anything like that? Do we know at this stage?
No, I don't know. It's that there's no information.
Because it's only been launched a week.
Well, it's not launched yet. There's no information about pricing or anything there yet. I mean, one of the things. Well, sorry, go.
So I was going to say, yes, launched. It's actually just, I'm looking at it was only revealed last week at this Boston A3E event. Yeah. Right.
I think the thing for me is, usually in a publishing deal or a royalty split, I don't know about library, and maybe different, but 50-50 is quite a high percentage to give away to the administrator. It's usually 70-30 or less, in my experience. So there must be an argument for the technology opening up more work. Because I know several people who work in library music, and they have to produce a lot. They've been producing like a track a month or more, or track a week for 10 years before they reach this critical mass where their tracks start to go out and people start to look for them as a particular composer. So, and still, the other thing is also then directors are going to latch onto that. But the other thing about this that I think may be flawed is that if the composer isn't doing it for you, then the production staff are going to have to sort of sit there for however long they need to sit there to make the music that they think they want. Because, I mean, ultimately, the director would probably, in most cases, love to be there and kind of going, no, that bit left a bit, that bit right, could it be a bit faster, a bit more heavy on the bass or whatever. They haven't got time to do it. So, somebody's going to have to still type in the words and make the things happy and get and get the hit points in the place that they want, and then tweak. I mean, because the point is, I would, as you were saying about iterations, what happens when you go, yes, I'll have that, And then it goes through to the next kind of, creative committee decision-making, awful sort of monstrosity of a sort of the way that these things tend to work. And they go, no, can we just change that? Can you then go back to that fingerprint and go, we need to tweak it? Because you're going to run out of fingerprints pretty damn quick, aren't you? Yep.
I mean, they might. It depends whether they go, we just want to tweak that element, or if they go, no, the mood of that's completely wrong. I mean, it's all so subjective.
Yeah, it's going to be the production.
Everybody's different idea of what it should be. It's like you can't do that with English words. They're not. I mean, the tagging isn't accurate enough to.
What would it come up with if you put in, West Midlands sort of benefit drug depression?
I'm not sure.
Let's try it.
Yeah,
that would be.
I could come up with something extremely accurate for that. Yeah.
Well, that's fair. That's a fair point. I suppose the thing is,
I could come up with happy shoe-free Glastonbury hippie. Actually, I've got some music for that.
But yes, I tell you the semantics. There aren't enough semantics for it. I mean, I guess the other thing that's going to be an issue is what's probably going to happen is the secretary to the production assistant's cameraman's, daughter is going to be the one who sits there and types it in and goes, Dad, I've got this. Is this all right? It's going to remove the skill even further away and make it more generic, I think, potentially. But it's very impressive to see in action.
But maybe it's a sort of quick fix. If it's an extra tool in your toolkit, perhaps you're doing some rushes for an advert, or you've got a project, and obviously we don't know the pricing of this software, but if it's something that you want to get, and yes, you could go to a library and pull some music off the shelf, but that might require you joining a library or even paying for that pleasure. I don't know quite how those work. Whether you can just pull something off and without have access to the to the generic to the library tunes. But this, if you've got something and you need something, then it could be a quick fix, couldn't it?
Exactly. I mean, because what often happens is that they put a track they can't afford to license under it because they go, I like that, and then they go to a composer and go, I want it to be like this, but not this. So maybe this would be a way of creating something that they like the sound of it. It won't be perfect. Can you now go and that Dave? But
what also tends to happen is they have that piece of music that they've chosen fixed in their mind. So as you're composing for them to create that piece of music that sounds like that thing that they've already cut the whole film to, any deviation from that. Is like, oh no, it should be more like this. And if you actually just recreated the song that they used, they'd be happy. That would be the happy point.
Can be,
because they want it to sound like the thing they've now got fixed in their mind.
Well, and also you get that situation where things happen sort of almost by accident to picture that imply things that perhaps they didn't mean in the first place. But they come to like it and they don't know why it's doing that or whatever. But we are.
Well, there's one final thing. I also noticed that it said that the composer is given a template, and they're given like a template of keywords to compose to, and then to write different aspects of the piece of music that they're writing to. So it becomes the composer's interpretation. So it's not even one person doing the interpretation. So 100 different people will have 100 different interpretations of happy, won't they? So how's it going? It doesn't quite.
Well, but
that's got to be.
That's good because
that's got to be a good thing, though.
Yeah, it would make more of an overall average of what.
Yeah, lots more major chords than minor chords, for instance.
But what they should have is let's have X Factor, closure, emotional story, ending bed. There'll be lots of that, I'm imagining.
Yeah, the piano chords and then uplifting and I just wanted to share this with you. I don't know if you heard this before, but you're just talking. I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, but that's a right angle. Yeah, you said about replacing soundtracks and putting music on and then replacing it later. I was told if you go back to some of the early Vangelis albums, there's a track called Albedo 0.39. I'm sure you know it.
Yeah. Very familiar.
Yeah, and it's got this twinkly Vangelis music, and it's got this voice reading out all these facts about the Earth and about how reflective and the albedo and all this kind of stuff. And it's I think it's, I can't remember what album it's off, but Pulsar or something like that, Pulsar I should say. Anyway, Keith Spencer Allen, who was a Vangelis' sound engineer, he's been a writer around several magazines, and but I met him last time I saw him was a few years ago. But when he was working on those albums, Vangelis would say, "Oh yeah, Keith, you read this bit out, and then I'll get an actor in to replace it later." And he never did. So, so Keith ended up saying all this stuff on this album, and Vangelis told him he was going to replace it, but he didn't actually intend to do that at all. He just got Keith to do it.
He didn't get a session fee.
It's just when you go back to if you go back to those Vangelis albums, which I'm sure the readers of Sonic State do all the time. Sorry, not the readers, the watchers of Sonic State. You'll see that Keith gets a sound engineering credit, but it's actually his voice. On some of those.
Shocking behaviour.
He wasn't happy.
There is call for a next topic, which might reach to be a good idea. We'll bring the topic in just after we finish the message from our sponsors. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about RX4, and then also we'll have the competition and the winner of last week. So stand by. I've got to press this button and the ad is supposed to play. That's what generally happens. There we go. Isotope. How could we live without it? The next generation of an industry standard. This is RX4. It's Emmy award winning, don't you know? It's got a whole bunch of new workflow enhancements, new modules. Basically, if you need to work with audio and you have to restore it or fix problems, this is what you need, basically. Clip gain, you can adjust the balance and volume for RMS of instruments and new non-destructive editing feature. Dialogue denoiser is now available in the standard edition. RX Connect, which is a fantastic workflow enhancement, allows you to drag and drop things from Pro Tools and other DAWs where you can't define an audio editor. Really very useful. Audio professionals in post-production, music production, mastering. It also gives you, in the advanced version, you get additional time-saving features. You can reliably deliver great sounding results with new tools like the leveler, EQ match, and many more features. As with all of the Isotope products, you could get a 10-day free unlimited demo by visiting isotope.com/RX4. We thoroughly recommend it, and if you haven't already checked it out, we've got a presentation with Matt Hines, who's the product specialist for Isotope, showing us what it can do. Now, of course, you will probably want to know about the competition, so let's get straight to it. I want to first of all announce last week's winner. Last week I asked you to tweet. Well, this is what you have to do. You have to tweet a hashtag, which last week was EQ match, and the winner for that is somebody called Ibrahim AR. It's the Twitter handle Ibrahimo_O. You'll know who you are, hopefully, and you just need to let me know, and the Isotope Fairy will then come and bestow RX4 into your email account, and you can then basically have it for free, which is fantastic. And if you want to win one this week, we have the same competition. What you have to do is use Twitter. This is the only way we can do it, where we can reliably pick a winner and have them actually respond. So you want to win Isotope RX4, you tweet the hashtag RxConnect. So hashtag RxConnect, and you send that to both @SonicNick and @Isotope Inc. In fact, if you basically tweet this part of this and add a comment, because we like to read them, it's very nice. So I know the Isotope people read them, and they're always saying, "Oh, that was a really interesting one." So do let us know what you think of the show or what you think of Isotope. But you need to include this text, so RxConnect and @SonicNick and @Isotope Inc. And then we will pick a winner next week, and hopefully it could be you. Who knows? So let's go to we can't. What we'll do is we'll quickly go to Reason 8, because Reason 8 is out this week, and this has got a video, and I'm going to play it. The new Reason 8 apparently is rewritten from the ground up, or certainly behind the scenes. There's a lot of rewritten code
that guides us in every decision.
It's all about the workflow and the ability to make music. It's a very glossy video
than they ever have before.
Which I had to turn down so much. It's so maximised that it's just there's no daylight in the waveform.
And drives us to improve, so you can improve. For beat makers,
I won't play the whole thing because it is very markety. There's a new browser. There's lots of drag and drop and some new workflow enhancements. You've also got some new bass amp, guitar amp plugins. and it's just out
directly to the
now. I don't know. I don't use Reason, so I can't really speak from great experience. I mean, I know they've had a lot of stuff. Gaz, I think you put your hand up there, so you must be qualified to speak on the subject.
Yeah, I got it yesterday, so I've had a good play around with it, and I actually used to, when I used to lecture in a college many years back. Actually, I used to teach it. So I hadn't actually used it since I think maybe version 4. So it was a real pleasure coming to it and seeing just what a big reworking that they've done of it. It's got a beautiful new interface. I mean, when I run it on my laptop with the 17-inch screen, it still has got that kind of cluttered feel that, even though it's been revised quite a lot. But when you put it onto bigger screens and move it all out, then I think that's when it really kind of really, really, really good. But actually, to be honest though, once I'd figured out a way of managing the windows on my laptop, I thought it was really good. But I tried the bass amp. It's a soft tube bass amp, and
right.
that was splendid. I thought it sounded really nice. It had a really nice liveliness to it, which it was a real pleasurable playing through it. So I thought that was good. Just the organization of it is very good. I think it's it's always like a slightly schizophrenic thing. The idea that the sequencer and the rack are these, sort of separate elements, really. As opposed to maybe a more traditional DAW where.
Well, and also because it integrates with record as well, so you then got another component as well. I mean, do you think? I mean, because we're talking $130 it is to upgrade. We're still, not got the VST integration. I'm not sure that we ever will because it's just their thing, I suppose. But I mean, I've been looking at the comments, certainly to the news item that we ran, and people have been saying, actually, it's okay, but it feels like a bit of a chunk of change for what doesn't fit, even though it might have a lot of stuff happened underneath that they had to work hard to produce. To the end user, it doesn't feel like a huge leap forward in terms of change. But I mean, as a user, a non-user, it's hard for me to comment, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's such a lot there since I last used it. So again, that would be a little bit difficult for me to comment on as well, really. But it has got this very crisp, responsive feel to it, though. Okay. And I think one of the, the fact that they've always maintained their own ecosystem, I think it means it was always super stable before, wasn't it? And I always felt that on the older versions that you could run more stuff in real time and low latency than other things on running on the same computer system. So I haven't really built anything
up. Pushed
big.
It hard, yeah.
No. But I'm assuming that's going to still be the case.
I know, Dave. When you have time between your social engagements and actual job, do you?
When is that, Nick?
I don't know. And presumably sometime between now and when the podcast ends. I'm not sure. Do you use? What do you use? I mean, are you familiar with Reason? Do you think they've done enough? I mean,
no, I haven't. Last time I had to play with Reason, it must be about Reason 3 or something like that, I think. And it always struck me even back then that it was you had to sort of take a deep breath and roll up your sleeves and get in to get the most of it. And just looking at the video and just what you said, Gaz, there's a certain sort of trepidation, a certain kind of fear of I've got the codes for a copy of it, and I want to have a play, but I'm just wondering if how many days I need to do that to, or where once I've committed, I'm going to be disappearing into this sort of vortex of wiring different synths up, and ultimately a big time zapper, which is what the studio, of course, is.
Yeah, I suppose
so. I agree with you guys. Again, I think there's something quite sexy about Propellerhead have done this as a company and kept their own identity and come out with a different take on the whole Cubase Logic thing, and for a group of geeky blokes in Stockholm, they've they've done
I'm
very
sure
well.
they'd be delighted to be referred. It's interesting. I wonder if it's a Swedish thing. I mean, I'm being massively generalising here, but you've got Electron, who very much do their own thing and go, this is the way we do it, and if you're with us, then great, it's fantastic. Enjoy our our innovations within our sort of universe of the way we do stuff. And propellers are kind of doing the same sort of thing. I know, Mark, are you you're not a Reason user at the moment, I'm guessing.
No, it looks quite interesting. But it looks remarkably like one of my other digital audio workstations, suddenly. And I'm not a huge fan of having things. I mean, it's taken me years and years and years to learn how to have things on linear timelines like tape, because I don't really think like tape. I think of songs as being lots of different chunks that I put together. So I've sort of gotten into Ableton again now, and I'm quite enjoying that. And then wondering why on earth I tried to learn how to make things in long strips, like in Logic or Pro Tools with things like tape. And then I've got into Reaper as well. Reaper's really good for when I do want to do edits of things and just overlap them, and it just does all of the crossfades automatically, quite beautifully, in fact. So I don't know. I'm maybe if there's a demo, I might download it and try it. But like Dave says, how much life have we got to learn all these different things?
I think it's
something that works for me at the moment.
Maybe it's for the existing use. Sorry, Gaz.
To be fair to it, I mean, one of the new things is the way the browser works with, and
that's really good.
Yeah, and also it's a little bit like in Ableton Live, where you if you press the button, I can't remember what it's called on Ableton Live now, then the presets that are pertinent to that become available, open up in the browser, and it's got like a similar function to that. And like if you insert something new, then the presets are immediately available. So in terms of just kind of quick and easy access, I think it's definitely the most accessible Reason's ever been. I remember when I was teaching it in the past, it was very confusing to people, but I think they've definitely moved it in the right way. It still is a bit small and fiddly in places, though, and I still think that's maybe its weak point for me.
I mean, when I used it, which was a long time ago now, probably version 2, maybe. God, version 2, yeah. If you knew how to use a studio and you understood how things got patched together, then you were in the right frame of mind for using it. But for somebody that has never used, like if you've got a young lad or lass coming at it new, fresh, as a computer technology person who'd never ever been in a studio or used a studio, you sort of somehow needed to learn. You needed to learn some of that stuff before you could use it. Whereas it did look very. I mean, it looks pretty now, doesn't it? There's lots of like really nice graphics in there, and watching people just drag stuff onto the timeline and do stuff looked a lot. Made the thing look a lot easier to use.
It's interesting.
In a way, sorry.
Go.
I was going to say, in a way, Mark, is without how to put this. It's not that Propellerhead are being in any way fascist by limiting people from doing it if they don't have some chops about how to use a studio, but in a way, perhaps it's quite nice that they have a technology, or they developed an approach to the software that requires you to exercise your brain and to know a little bit how traditional studios work, so that you are plugging this into that and all that kind of thing, rather than just expecting the software to do it for you, and therefore a whole knowledge bank, a whole sort of set of experiences is lost. I mean, maybe that's slightly controversial.
That's very philanthropic of them.
I suppose you could go the other way, couldn't you? You could use Propellerhead's Reason for a while and then go, you know what, I want to do this in the real world now, and then you go and create a studio and do it with real patch cords. Whoa! Sorry for my over-enthusiasm about real patch cords, especially patch cords.
I'm a big fan.
Wiggle a lot with lots of.
I'm a big fan of patch cords,
switch
particularly
cleaner.
with modular. Well, if you're interested, it's available now, and it's well worth checking out because, I mean, as with all of these DAWs, they get to a certain level where they are pretty much going to do everything you want. It's just a question of whether or not it's a familiar workflow. And, some people have said that perhaps this release is more of a stepping stone to whatever the next big change in the Reason workflow is, or whatever else that they're doing. But they've done a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. Obviously, they've got the rack extensions and opened that up to third parties, which is their answer to the VSTs, and created a marketplace, and that's all kind of pretty good stuff. But I suggest we should
Here you go.
Sorry?
I think that they need to build this in for a
Server
full authentic experience. You need to have this somewhere on a button, and you just like kind of click.
And it cleans the patch bay, yeah, stops it
Clean
crackling.
some of the cords, yeah.
Screen wipe.
Authentic crackle from time to time.
What a good idea. Right, okay, what's next? This is interesting because at the weekend I went to this. So this is Billy Elliot live screening top UK cinema box office. This is the sort of new trend. Well, it's not that new, but it's becoming much more happening, more regular in terms of happenings. So, big show in London, they'll stream it live to hundreds of cinemas and get like up to sort of 10-15 quid a ticket for the privilege. And I went to watch this because my daughter's into dance, and we thought we'd go and see Billy Elliot. In fact, if you are going to take a small child, make sure they're not too small, because it's actually very filth potty mouthed as a performance. And there are some moments in there where I saw there were sort of grandparents with their young children looking and thinking, and particularly the songs about wishing Maggie Thatcher was dead, I think probably didn't chime perhaps with the political alignment of some of the audience. But that aside, it's an incredibly fascinating thing. I mean, it seems to have rejuvenated the whole notion of watching a live event but being streamed. The thing about the theatre is when you're there, there's a sense of being around something. If this had just been televised, it would have been a very different experience. It's a very interesting thing. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. I was fully expecting to fall asleep because it's not, dance isn't really my core interest, but it's actually not. Dave, you know a little bit about this because I was really curious about the technology, because they really are starting to push that, and the productions are amazing.
Well, actually, I don't know an awful lot about the technology, other than they're taking a feed and presumably it's some there's an uplink to a satellite, and it's beamed, and then there's a receiver in the cinema, and off it goes. But I've been to a couple of these now. I've seen I saw Monty Python. So on the 20th of July, I think it was, I was at the Picture House in Clapham, and I saw the performance that was the final performance, which I think was available on UK Gold as well. So if you had the right subscription package, you could watch it at home. But seeing it in the cinema was a very good experience. But more so, there is a company now. I'm going to get the name right. I think they're called Screen Sound. Let me just have a look. If I got that, if I've
While
got
you
that
do that,
right.
I've just brought to your attention Grid Sleep in the chat room. It says, like the difference between watching this now, this being the podcast now, and watching it tomorrow when it's been uploaded to YouTube. There is an aspect of real-timeness to the way that these things happen. But the technology is astonishing. I mean, these are sort of hugely scripted. I mean, it's a full production, and that because, as we've seen in the past with sort of stuff like Glastonbury, the BBC are fantastically good at generating this kind of excitement from an event and conveying it through the small screen. And that's something that, when it's happening in real time, definitely has a certain extra element of it that's almost intangible. Have you discovered your information, Dave?
No, but I will do. Anyway, I think it's Silver Screen Sound, something like that. But anyway, this is so I saw a performance last November, and it was Keane. It was Keane playing in a theatre in Germany, a sort of 300 capacity theatre, and that was broadcast to around 250 cinemas worldwide.
Wow.
A certain number in the UK, and certain it seems certain territories were more receptive of it than others for whatever reason, presumably licensing or whatever. So they had some in South America, and I think some in Europe. But where I saw it was at the Trocadero View Cinema. So it was only sort of 150 people, but it was the gig, and the way it was mixed, it was broadcast in surround, so you really felt you were there watching a performance of Keane live, even though you were sat in the cinema. And I know there've been a few of these, and this whole D-cinema, digital cinema thing, David Bowie sort of pioneered some of this about 10 years ago. So this kind of simultaneous broadcast to cinemas of productions has been going on for a while. Certainly the National Theatre have done it many times. NT Live, it's called. And they've done Frankenstein and Warhorse, and a lot of big productions have been broadcast live. So it's a great way of getting to the theatre without actually getting. You know, you'd never get tickets for the National, perhaps, but you can get tickets for your local cinema that are showing this production, and it's been very successful in that degree.
Yeah, it seems like a big money earner, isn't it? It's definitely.
Well, and again, it's a way of bringing something to a lot more people for them to enjoy. What was interesting about the Keane gig was that you would never be able to get. I would never be able to get into that gig. 300 people in Germany, that particular gig, and you felt like you were watching a DVD. But then they messed up. They messed up a track. He said something like, "Oh, we're the Dream Team," and they did a song with just the keyboard player and the singer, and then he said, "Let's get the Dream Team back together," and they had the drummer join in, and the drummer messed up, something like that, and they had to start the track again. And that was when you realised it really was live, because that wouldn't have been on the DVD edit, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So anyway, we watched this performance. I think in some respects, live gigs like that for theatre, what we found was it wasn't rock and roll enough. There wasn't enough bass end. When the crowds were cheering, you felt like you were being immersed in it. But generally, the sound needed more rock and roll.
Right.
But the interesting thing I felt afterwards was that. A couple of weeks later, I was thinking to myself, what was that Keane gig I went to? And then I realised it wasn't a gig that I'd been to. I'd just been watching it in the theatre, but it was convincing enough to me that it felt like the gig. And this company, as I said, Silver Screen Sound. I'll get a slap for not remembering the name, but it's a really good idea, and I hope they get to do more of it.
Yeah,
because it's a way of bringing that live sense to a wider audience.
It definitely works. I mean, the thing that for me, Gaz, is what I realised is those kind of London stage productions are just really bloody good. I mean, the quality and that there's, even though some of it, it's the music by Elton John and whatever, it has cheesy moments and it's sort of there's some cheesy emotions there, but being there in the moment. It really affected me much more emotionally than perhaps it would if I was just watching a film. Have you ever seen this sort of stuff?
Well, I went to the Monty Python thing at the O2 a few weeks ago, and I thought it was absolutely dreadful. I hated it. It made me really angry, and I had exactly the opposite experience. I'd have much preferred to watch that at home.
What was so bad about it?
Oh, well, it was bad in every way, I thought that it was
really
it's a
bit harsh, Gaz.
Oh, I'm a big fan, and I'm not anymore. I also felt we were being fleeced in every way, just from the cost of the parking to them selling programs for 20 quid, everything just seemed. And then they were making jokes on stage about we're only doing this for the money. And I just thought, yeah, you damn right. Yes, totally true. So,
but they made that quite clear from the. I mean, maybe this is not the place, but they made it quite clear that they were doing it for the money. Because of John Cleese has got to pay all this money to his ex-wife. I mean, they've been quite public about that.
I just saw them as a bunch of rich blokes just making loads more money. I actually felt it was awful. I thought it was stullifying some of the song and dance routines. I was mortified. I think I laughed once in the whole thing.
You're in an even worse mood there that day than perhaps you have been on other days, Gaz. I don't know. But generally speaking, what do you think of the notion of it? I mean, for musical happenings, because you were in Popeye, weren't you? Which, they only did one or two. They did a very small amount of performances in a beautiful theatre in France. I mean, if they'd streamed that sort of thing would work really well, presumably.
Yeah, I guess so. I do like the idea. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was ranting, and I generally, when I go to things, enjoy them very much. So it is a bit unusual. I go into the War of the Worlds thing as well. I think they're retiring the show now, aren't they? The War of the Worlds. So I'm going to go and see them on the. So I'm going to be quite interested. Now I think that one's being broadcast in cinemas as well, isn't it? Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, or well, I think it maybe has already, perhaps. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. Again, making things accessible, making things maybe more affordable, perhaps. I mean, if you live out in the sticks, a trip up to London, as well as the price of the ticket for the show, the trip up to London and the accommodation and all the associated costs does make it very expensive, doesn't it?
Oh, that London, eh?
Well, I'm going up. I'm actually leaving. I'm doing this on Friday. I'm going up to see the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory experience on Friday night. Just so that's going to be something I'm going to do. But I think
hold on, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory experience, or are you going to see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
I'm going to see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's not the same.
Oh, right.
But
okay.
I mean, the thing that interests me about this is the notion of let's transfer it to musical happenings, bands like you've had, Dave. I mean, Mark, I don't know how you feel about going to see live music gigs or whatever. I mean, is this something that you could substitute? Would you feel kind of like it's an event that you would do? And what would you like to see from something like that? Because, I mean, they enhanced the Billy Elliot thing with a little bit of preamble and sort of, chit-chat and an interview with the main star and a bit of like, this is what's going to happen. And it did personalise it to a degree.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your question by going off on a tangent.
Okay, that's all right.
Last night at dog training, when I was at dog training, the woman who helps us train our dogs said you need to teach dogs in chains, and if the dog isn't getting it, then you need to go back a few steps and you need to teach. So you teach various different actions and then you chain them together to make a thing, okay, that happens, okay? So the reason I'm thinking about that is because I'm thinking about how you stream a virtual reality experience to somebody's home so that you put on an event and then they're in that virtual reality. People aren't subscribing to that at the moment because it's too weird, right? It's too kind of out there to sit down with a virtual headset on and then be in a performance. And then there's the Second Life thing where Duran Duran did concerts in the real world and then they streamed them into Second Life and a few people kind of got into it, but it didn't really kind of balloon in the way that they hoped it would. Now, if you think that if we take it back a few steps and get people used to the idea of going out, going to the cinema and sitting and watching this on a big screen, but then they're watching this other performance, so they get some of the elements of being there, maybe this is like the media machine or the entertainment machine or whatever, teaching us to accept that that's an acceptable form of going to see a live event, and then eventually we'll chain enough steps together that we will get to the point where we put a headset on and then we go out for the evening.
Okay.
So that's where I think it could go.
It's the interesting notion of something that's actually happening.
It's a good use for theatres. Yeah, it's a good use for theatres. It's a good use for cinemas because nobody really seems to want to go to the cinema anymore. They're always empty. Although I say that they're usually empty on Saturday morning, but I don't.
Yeah,
a huge sweeping generalisation for something I've experienced in a very small snapshot of time. But it's interesting, isn't it? I mean.
Okay,
no,
Dave,
know.
I've just got an email from Dave saying he has to go at 5 p.m, which is round about now.
In 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes.
I thought I'd be subtle.
So, well, that's
I mean,
all
I
right.
think
the one thing I did want to say.
Hold on a sec. You've got limited time, Dave. So we've just got up to you.
So, I just wanted to share this with you. One of the third type of the third type of experience like this, which is slightly different, but was an occasional is a coordinated cinema release. So I went to the Chemical Brothers screening of Don't Think, which was screened across London, and there's a one screening on one night, and it was effectively like going to the theatre, like going to a special event, but you went to the cinema.
Right. Okay.
And that was, I thought, was a nice idea. What was particularly brilliant about it was that you're watching a concert film, and because it's only there for one night, it feels like you're going to the gig. But what was brilliant
But it
about
wasn't actually real time.
No, but the screening only happened at one point, and
okay.
that was all screened at the same time throughout the UK and maybe in Europe as well. But there was only one point where you could go and see this film being screened in the cinema, and it was all on one particular Friday night at 7:30. But what was brilliant is that the cinema was transformed into a nightclub. There were people dancing in the aisles, and it was all very, very bizarre. And nobody, by the end of it, people just weren't sitting in the seats anymore. They were just up and dancing in the aisles. And
health and safety must have been a nightmare.
Well, it was
Duran Duran.
Like it.
I've got to say that Duran Duran did exactly this about 3 weeks ago. I think they did a film with David Lynch, which was a live concert, which they screened in cinemas all over America and Europe, and it happened at the same time for everyone. And there's a certain solidarity in the fan base to all know that they're all doing the same thing at the same time, all going to this concert together. So that it's kind of cool, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's a nice idea. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think, Dave, you probably this is my time to say.
Go, yeah. And I've just noticed, Mark, do you know all this technology and stuff? All this technology, listen to me. Your multi-screen Skype interface. It doesn't half eat the battery. I tell you, on my laptop, I've just noticed. I've just gone into the red.
Oh dear.
No, I'm not plugged in. It's been munching it away. I can tell you that.
Well, that's Skype for. Anyway, Dave Robinson, ProSound News Europe or PSN Europe. There we go. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again
next time. Next time, I'd like to be able to show you my USB collection.
Oh, that's
the
beautiful.
shark, for instance.
I love it. I've got some of them. I've got some, but they're not to hand at the moment. All right. Thanks very much, Dave. See you next time.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
So just on the cinema tip, Nick, I just came back from Sheffield. Sorry, Mark. We did a performance at the weekend of the Endless Summer with the Rumbelows again, doing a live soundtrack. So that's almost like the other side of things, really. Doing a gig and a film at the same time.
Adding a live element to it, right?
Yeah, and that was really, great fun. And it feels, it feels really exciting, and I think that. So that whole kind of cinema environment, I think, is very conducive to musical events. There's a place in Bristol called the Cube. Have you ever been to the Cube?
I haven't. I've heard about it though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's superb. I mean, it's a cinema, but they do gigs, and they put gigs on the stage there, and just the fact that the audience is sat in that sort of
that's risky. Can you imagine the drummer falling off the back there and ripping the silk of the screen? God, Jesus. But yes,
it's just it's a very conducive space. I think the cinema or theatres for the enjoyment of music.
Yeah, some certainly are. So. Mark, you wanted to come in. Sorry to cut you off there. But...
I was just going to say, I think one important point that Dave made is about having exclusive. I think it was Dave that made it. The idea that you can have an exclusive concert, like a small concert where you're in a tiny little venue where not very many people could attend something, and then it gets screened out to big screens kind of all over the rest of the place. And so
everybody
lots of people
can share the experience. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's a very valid point, and something that when we've done live shows,
theoretically you could get like a huge act playing on
tiny stage. Yeah.
I don't know, Whiskey a Go-Go or something. And
well, that's what I do if I owned a venue like that. I'd be doing exactly that. In fact, that's what I want to do here if I could. But we're not quite set up for that just yet. But one last thing before we go, I wanted to talk about this. Oh, not that. That's this one. finally, that Yuhi have released Bazille, which is their latest kind of monster software synthesizer. It's been in production for a very long time. Nice demo track, I must say. All sorts of stuff it has on offer. 4 digital oscillators, 4 multimode filters, modelled effects, 2 LFOs, 4 aliases. I don't know if anybody uses the Yuhi stuff, but they seem to be one of those companies that just have helped push the envelope of what's possible with synthesizers, and also not just making emulations. Not that there's anything wrong with emulations, but they're doing their own thing and sort of coming up with other stuff. And I just wondered, Mark, have you come across any of their stuff? I mean, this looks kind of cool. It's only $89 as well, which seems a special offer.
I think
Diva,
I have come across
obviously
some of that
Zebra.
stuff. Oh, Zebra. Yeah, I've used Zebra. That sounded really good, that synth, actually, whatever that is. I mean, it's not analog, is it? It's digital, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's software. It's totally software. It's not analog modelled. No, I think the filters are analog modelled, but the rest is all kind of its own thing.
Well, the sounds were really good.
Yeah.
So I thought I need to go and check it out in more depth. I mean, these things come along and then you sort of try them out and you think, oh, this is quite good. And then you end up using the things you've always used. And then sort of forgetting that you've got that thing, I suppose.
I know what you mean.
And then,
yes, I know what you mean.
And now looking at his website, it's Howard, isn't it?
No,
Scar?
Howard Scar does a lot of the sound. He's
a
Zebra user, and I think a Diva user as well. And he's the guy who works with Hans Zimmer and has used a lot of Yuhi products. But yeah, he may well have worked on sound design for this. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. But yeah, it looks really nice. Gaz, what do you think?
It sounds ace, doesn't it? The sound is just so, it's kind of got that nice rip about it that makes it, like just you sit up and go, wow. I haven't downloaded it yet. I've been reading about it, and I mean, it's it's got that aspect a little bit like Reason in a way, hasn't it? With sort of graphic patch cables.
Exactly. You've got the ability to virtually patch, virtual modular, which I like the idea of, which kind of gave me the idea, actually, what we need, because it'd be good to have that going on, but you could just output, you'd have some sort of interface that just outputs control voltages and you just plug it, so you build all of these complex modulations and then feed them into your actual modular as well.
That would be really good.
I want to see that, please.
Excellent. Yeah.
And actually, that should be possible with those motor interfaces, shouldn't it? Don't they?
Yeah.
They spit voltages and gates and things out, don't they?
Absolutely. Well, no, expert sleepers do it, absolutely. But I'm just thinking in terms of actually more of a Bazille-like interface with patch cords.
Yeah, modules. Virtual modules. Yeah, it would be really cool.
I'm being schooled now. That's called Max for Live, Nick, etc., etc. So yeah, there are ways, but I think there's probably
have a brain the size of a small planet to work that out, though, don't you?
Gaz just went. What happened to Gaz? He dropped off the world. I wonder if his battery ran out.
There's another version of Max for Live imminent, isn't there? Just about to come out. They sort of semi-announced something the other day, didn't they?
I'm not sure, did they? I'm just trying to get Gaz back. He went. Oh, I don't know what happened there, Gaz. You vanished. There we go.
I think we're on Max for Live 6, aren't we? And I read something about Max for Live 7 was, or maybe just Max 7 is imminent. And it's
I need to get into it. I need to. But it's interesting. It's like it's like Dave and we were talking about. Is there time? It's just time to learn more stuff and new things. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, Gaz, you went. I think you were about to say something, but I may not. You may not have been. And you have got no audio. Your audio's gone. Can't hear you, Doctor. It's not me this time, I'm sure. Oh. No, can't hear him. Oh, no. We can look at him, but we can't hear him. Anyway, well, look, maybe this is a good time to consider stopping the show, bringing it to an end. But yeah, Yuhi Bazille is out now. It's been there for it's been quite a while in the making, and I know Urs Heckman, who is the main guy, is kind of very impressive in the way that he tackles these things, and I'm certainly going to try and get hold of one for review. It looks very interesting. So u-he.com. Still got no Gaz audio. He's dropped out. But anyway, what we'll do is we'll say, Mark, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. Very much appreciated to have your input as ever. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
You're very welcome. Always enjoy it. And yeah,
Okay,
keep
super.
inviting me back. Excellent.
And
Thank you.
I would say goodbye to Gaz, but Gaz seems to have gone. So what I will do is, on his behalf, say to Gaz Williams, thank you very much. Oh no, he's coming back. Is Gaz coming back? Ah, there he is. We got him. Sorry, Gaz, you just dropped off. You had a crash of some kind. But we were just doing the goodbyes, so I will just make you full screen, and then you can go. That's it. That's right. Thank you very much.
I don't know what happened then. Don't know what happened. Just
one of those things, isn't it?
Skype just dropped off. Yeah. So we're saying goodbyes, are we?
Yeah, we are. Well, I was just saying that we can get the Yuhi stuff. You can download it from yuhi.com, and the chat room is full of people saying how much they rate a lot of the other Yuhi synthesizers. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I think I might have to go and buy it now, actually.
Oh, there he goes. Meanwhile, here, I've just to fill you in what's coming up on Sonic State. Obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Really makes a lot of sense. I've got some Boom Stars here, which sound absolutely amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. And I've just reviewed the Dave Smith Instruments Curtis filter, which also sounds jolly nice. So we'll say goodbye, Gaz. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yep. And don't forget to watch the video, the Cubase timing video. Even if you don't use Cubase, I think it's an interesting one to watch.
It's very interesting. Yes, very interesting. And also we'll say thank you to Mark Tinley as well. Again.
Done that already.
Yeah, we have. Well, anyway, I'm just doing it.
I always used to get confused when you said goodbye to me, and now you're just.
And now I'm messing with your head.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thanks everybody, and yes, do check out the Cubase stuff, and also thanks very much to our show sponsors. Don't forget you can join the competition if you want to win a copy of RX4. You just need to tweet out RX Connect as the hashtag to @SonicNick and @Isotope Inc. Include a comment as well, because we do like to have your input. It always, rather than just reading a load of hashtags, it's nice to have a bit of extra stuff. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time. That's it for this week.